Tell me what you'd do if the most feared beings in the galaxy walked straight into your party, and only an 8-year-old dared to say hello. Evan Rhodes checked the seam of his daughter's travel jacket again, fingertips skating over the filament weave that caught the violet glow of the station's corridor lights. The jacket didn't need checking. He needed calming. Lena, gap-toothed and buoyant on an extra dose of curiosity, tilted a grin up at him. "Dad, I'm not breakable," she said, the words fogging the glass as a freighter ghosted past the observation slit. The Concord Spire, headquarters of the Pan-Galactic Compact, hung above the world called Haven like a chandelier over a ballroom. Lattices of transparent alloy, skinned in starlight, humming with languages that didn't always belong to mouths. Gravity-slick natives drifted in lamp-bright pods. Tripedal merchants trod with bell chimes. A jelly of sentient mist flowed through a pressure door. Somewhere deeper in, strings were being tuned and old arguments rehearsed. Evan hadn't planned to bring Lena to a diplomatic reception, especially not one with this guest list. But his partner was across the system supervising a Mars ring harvest. The school had shuttered for the solar recess, and humanity's newest ambassador couldn't find an Earthside sitter who knew how to say no to steering thrusters or yes to bedtime. So they came, together, on the assumption that the dullest danger is the safe kind. The doors side open to a hall with a ceiling of moving sky, a live starfield that never repeated. Platters floated by on whisper fields, each bearing foods that steamed, sang, or tried not to be eaten. Lena lunged toward a translucent cube that breathed, and Evan redirected her to a bowl of tame fruit cylinders that tasted like pears pretending to be cinnamon. "Ambassador Rhodes," rasped a voice like two tectonic plates greeting. Threx of Scalos, emerald-scaled and pupil-slit, spread a double-jointed smile that showed a museum's worth of teeth. "You have brought your small one. My daughter, Lena. If that's acceptable." "Acceptable?" Threx blinked in the slow, ceremonial way of his species. "It is unusual." Nairi of Hive Cluster 7 followed, her gem-bright eyes mirroring the starfield ceiling. Though singular in body, her words always arrived in chords, dozens of minds braided into one sound. "The human has brought a juvenile," the chorus noted. "Unanticipated variable." "She wanted to see the station," Evan said. "We isolate our juveniles until emergence," Nairi sang. "To protect the hive, to protect the juvenile, to protect outcomes." "What's an emergence?" Lena whispered. "I'll explain later," Evan whispered back, already losing count of things he would explain later. A silver chime rippled the room. Conversation diluted into silence. From the center of the hall, a light being ghosted together, Vox emissary of the Compact. "Honored delegates," it intoned, voice like cathedral glass. "Tonight we affirm our commitment to dialogue with the Starfire Dominion." The temperature climbed as if someone had lifted the sun a degree closer. Evan saw his own breath stop in his chest. Dragons, he thought, not the fairy tale kind. Spacefaring ancients who held 3 sectors in a grip of fire and legend. Every contact attempt had ended in wreckage or rumor. The Compact's invitation had been meant as symbolism, not RSVP. It happened like a bad idea deciding to be beautiful, air shimmering, heat waves tasting like copper, a twist of flame uncurled in the center of the hall. Security Chief Core, fur bristling, paws already moving barriers into blue-hued planes, growled orders no one wanted to need. The flame gained physics, then personality. A horned head coalesced, scales like heated ore, eyes 2 patient embers. Neck shoulders a cathedral-long body. Wings folded tight as secrets, 40 feet nose to tail, and yet the sense of it stretched farther. A presence you felt in marrow. "I am Aurelia," thundered the voice, translators scrambling to carry it without shattering. "Matriarch of the Starfire." Dozens of species forgot how to blink. Threx trembled. Neari's many thought threads tangled, then smoothed. "We invited. We did not expect." The embarrassment smelled like ozone. "You invited me expecting?" Absence, Aurelia replied, head tilting with the clinic calm of a surgeon about to cut. I smelled your relief in the ink. The blue barriers came alive with a hum that hinted at comfort and futility. Evan pulled Lena behind one, only to feel her slip away. The field rose high enough to stop anyone groan. It did not anticipate the exact stubbornness of an 8-year-old human child determined to meet the center of the room. Lena! Evan slammed his palms to the field. The barrier thrummed back, safe, firm, useless. Shoes ticking lightly, Lena crossed the hall like gravity was a polite suggestion, not a rule. Aurelia lowered a city's worth of head. Smoke embroidered the air between them. Child, she said, the syllable a warm avalanche. You are not afraid. Should I be? Lena asked, chin tipped up, eyes reflecting a dragon's sunrise. Everyone else looks scared. But you look tired and pretty, like my mom's necklace when the sun hits it. The word traveled oddly in a voice made for thunder. Pretty, Aurelia echoed. Lena took another step. Are you lonely? The room stopped, pretending to breathe. Somewhere behind the barriers, Threx covered his eyes. Neri's chorus dropped to a single thin strand. Chief Kor's hand hovered near a weapon he would never use. Aurelia's answer came from some deep place that didn't owe anyone an explanation. 5 millennia I have flown, she said softly, like a mountain teaching the wind a secret. No one has asked me that. The heat in the room shifted, still fierce but now like sunlight in winter, warming what had gone cold. Lena reached up and gently, absurdly, inevitably, touched scale. A kiss, quick as a comet. A sound rolled through the hall like distant rain on stone. Joy felt like heat being kind. You invite me, Aurelia declared at last, voice rolling outward to every listening translator bead, every folded ear, every frightened heart. And you will speak with me, but you will speak through those who see, the humans. Her eyes, small suns, returned to Lena. We will fly, little one. And as suddenly as flame decides to be smoke, she folded back into shimmer and was gone, leaving warmth, astonishment, and the smell of a promise. What happens when a child becomes the only translator a dragon clan trusts? The emergency chamber felt too small for history, plain ring of seats, metal walls that forgot how to be impressive, half the chairs empty because news outruns bodies. Evan sat with Lena's legs scissoring the air. Her feet didn't reach the floor, but her attention reached everything. Elder. Bryn arrived leaning on his humstaff, bark-textured and moon-old, a forest carved into a person. We will begin, he said, patience braided into the words. The holographic replay unspooled, heat haze becoming dragon, the quiet defiance of a child crossing a floor, a kiss that tilted a galaxy. You endangered the room, Threx managed, scales gone a shade paler. The juvenile asked what no one else thought to ask. Neri's many-voiced mind cut in. Result? Non-catastrophic engagement with ultra-threat entity, anomalous vector, empathy. Dr. Hayes, human xenopsyche lead, lifted a hand. Protocol is designed to protect and it's good, but protocols are built from what we've already survived. We haven't survived dragons. Our models overweight force and underweight feeling. Feelings are not measures, Threx objected. They are if the other party uses them as instruments, Hayes said, tapping the frozen frame where Aurelia's eyes changed at the word lonely. Watch this moment. Surprise, pain, recognition, not weakness, data. The child's question touched a frequency our training doesn't cover. Elder Bryn turned to Lena. Did you understand danger? Everyone was scared, Lena said after thinking it honest. She looked more sad than mean. The chamber's air altered again, like a storm deciding whether to land. A new image bloomed, not a replay, live. Aurelia, carried in light from whatever ship we pretended not to notice stalking the station's blind spots. I am listening, the dragon said simply. Bryn bowed. We are honored. My kin withdrew, Aurelia said, voice steady as a held bridge. Not because we craved ruin, but because ruin kept craving us. Species wanted our fire for their engines, our scales for their wars, our space for their hunger. They wrote monsters in their stories when we wrote boundaries in the sky, Lena's hand shot up because school has rules and habits have gravity. Why didn't you just tell them? She asked. We did, Aurelia said. They translated I hurt into you threaten. They measured our fear as force on readiness. When language breaks, so does trust. Threx's tail gave a traitor twitch. We treat emotion as inefficiency. Strategy speaks. Feeling distracts. And that, Hayes said gently, is why your people never reached them. Aurelia turned her gaze back to Lena. You asked if I was lonely. You looked like the new kid on the first day, Lena replied. Everyone pretending not to stare. A sound that might be a chuckle and might be a small earthquake shivered the display. We will speak, Aurelia said, through those who remember that persons are not problems, through humans. The room filled with arguments wearing polite clothes. Advantages, access, asymmetry. Threx finally said the quiet part without shame. You grant them favor. Yes, Aurelia said. Favor follows those who risk kindness. A door inside history opened. No one had the map. But the hallway, beyond smelled like a future where new tools might be questions instead of cannons. If dragons choose humanity as their bridge, what does the other side of that bridge look like? 3 dawns later, the viewport showed an orange sky, stitched with floating islands. Pyros, or whatever name the dragons used before language learned to wrap them, was a physics professor's recurring nightmare, crossed with an artist's favorite dream. Rivers of light ran uphill. Crystals grew like cities had feelings. Sensors insisted none of this should be survivable. Lungs disagreed and breathed easy. Aurelia stepped from shadow like she had been there the whole time, heat in her wake that felt like oven door warmth and summer afternoon comfort at once. 2 others came with her. Frost, a scholar whose breath curled air into lace, and Cinder, memory keeper whose scales drank light and returned it as stories. Welcome to our home, Aurelia said. We learn to fold it from threats. We can unfold it for guests. Lena ran straight into the dragon's foreleg hug like that was an ordinary thing to do when meeting an apex legend on her porch. Evan's brain, the prudent part, made a brief high-pitched noise only he could hear. Council observers disembarked with rehearsed humility and unpracticed awe. Threx's scales brightened a respectful hue. Nairi's forearms carried devices heavy with questions. We believed your number small, Nairi admitted as winged shapes traced the orange sky. A misread. Not few, Frost said. Not many. Just enough to keep promises. They entered a cavern where walls wore history. Relief showed dragons teaching stars how to sing, delivering power, not taking it. Then chains. Then escape lit by the kind of fire that makes new rules. Cinder's voice gentled at the panel of a hatchling in a cage. We stopped offering our gifts because gifts kept being repackaged as debts. Evan touched a groove carved 5 centuries deep. How many asked you what you wanted? Define asked, Frost said dryly. Asked without attaching a price tag. The dragons looked at one another, the silence longer than most species could stand. None, Aurelia answered at last, until your small one asked if we were lonely. She turned to Lena, lowering her head until her eyes were not suns but simply eyes. We are built for reading intent, little human. It is a burden. We feel the calculus in a room the way you feel a draft. We know when someone comes to claim, not to know. We grow tired of being weighed. Nairi's chorus softened. We never learned to be alone. We do not parse loneliness. My people admire strength, Threx admitted. We treat loneliness like a flaw to be sealed. And so you never found us, Aurelia said without malice. Because you did not look with the part that could see. She led them through the cavern to a city no non-dragon had seen in a half-millennium. Bridges of tempered light. Rookeries like museums of sunsets. Younglings playing tag with thermals while exhaling careful bursts that glittered. Lena's hand found Evan's. He had the wild thought that maybe weapons were just what species invented, before they remembered gentler inventions like listening. Will I get to come back? Lena asked, bouncing between wonder and impatience in the way only children and comets can. You will always be welcome, Aurelia said. You and those who come to meet, not harvest. Terms followed. spoken with the clarity of a treaty that preferred feelings but still respected ink. Respect without extraction, recognition without exploitation, access through humans who proved they could say no as well as yes. Somewhere behind them, Threx calculated, recalculated, and, startling himself, stopped calculating long enough to agree. Evan caught the weight in the room. The lift, too. Humanity would be a door. Doors change both sides of themselves. When the Dragon Council asks humanity to be more than allies, something closer to family, who says yes and at what cost? The council chamber on Pyros was carved from a single crystal big enough to convince mountains to be humble. 5 ancients sat in a circle, each a different color of heat. Aurelia took the center like a hearth. Observers stood at the periphery tasting history. Why humans? Asked ancient, gray, wing-scarred, voice like wind inventing caves. You are not the strongest nor the most. You are, however, inconveniently, earnest. Evan resisted the mouthful of diplomacy he'd practiced. Intent thrummed in the air. Obvious, readable. We try to understand, he said. We fail a lot. We try again. Our best people lead with connection. One child's kindness is not a species-wide policy, noted Shimmer. Scales oil slick with color. What happens when she grows and the world teaches her to count the wrong things? Lena squeezed Evan's hand, then stepped forward because children step forward before they learn how to wait. I'll still be me, she said. My teacher makes sure no one eats lunch alone. Mr. Ortiz fixes the neighbor's porch and won't take credits. People do good things, even when nobody's scoring. You can make a rule out of that. Ancient made a sound halfway between sigh and laugh. She argues like our young. Cinder unfurled a data panel woven from light. Partnership proposal. We open 3 sectors to human exploration and protection. We share knowledge under terms you will help enforce. You represent us to the compact until we relearn how to be among those who forgot how to see us. That makes humans gatekeepers to dragon space. Admiral Rowe, seconded to the joint defense effort, said carefully. Yes, Frost answered. The door chooses its doorkeeper. Neri stepped in from the observer ring, forearms folded in a shape her people used for contrition. We were wrong, she said, all her minds in agreement. We optimized for outcomes and minimized persons. We intend to learn, Threx lowered his gaze. Submission, not shame. We measured strength and found a wall. We forgot bridges are stronger than walls when rivers rise. Aurelia turned to Lena, eyes softening at the edges. There is one more offer. Old, not given in an age, first friend. A bond between our kind and one small one who will learn us, live with us part of her year, help stitch the first seams of return. Protected as kin, taught as kin, asked to be brave in ways we can promise will be worth it. Evan's heart did a coin flip and landed on both sides. She's 8, not forever, Aurelia said gently. We ask the family, not just the child. I want to do it, Lena blurted, and then, catching up to the gravity, added, if Mom and Dad say yes. Wisdom. Consulting your constellation, Shimmer said. Pleased, Ancient rose with the grace of a building uncollapsing. We vote. The light in the crystal shifted, records were made, and the future picked a direction. Partners, not merely allies. Doors and bridges. Ink and feeling. Partnership signed. Now meet the enemies no one asked the dragons about, because no one ever asked. 6 months blurred into something like a new normal. On the conquered spire's observation ring, traffic lanes threaded like embroidery. Lena, now 9.5 and in possession of a jacket embroidered with gifted, non-weaponized scales, tapped updates into a tablet that held math homework beside dragon phonemes. Ambassador Chen wants your take on the trade corridor, she said, not quite rolling her eyes at the idea that grown-ups still needed takes. Threx arrived first. Scales brighter and body language less coiled than it used to be. We are piloting empathy modules in diplomat training, he reported, pride carefully disguised as formality. We asked our rivals what they actually needed. We ended a 50-year border stupidity in 50 minutes. Neri followed with numbers that tasted like a tide chart. 23 species have applied for human-mediated access to dragon sectors. 12 approved, 8 under review, 3 declined for transactional intent without cultural engagement. They didn't want friends, Lena said, taking the weight of being believed with the seriousness of someone who knows what trust costs to earn. Admiral Rowe overlaid a star map that thinned at the edges of the known. The rim, she said, Automated kill machines from a civilization that forgot how to stop.